So in this video, we're just going to take a look at a couple of tips when it comes to presenting remotely. And this comes following a session I did with a couple of colleagues at university around supporting Welsh medium. So I'm going to use that really as the basis for this, but obviously you could adapt this for all sorts of lessons. And the idea is really thinking about the background that you have in your videos. We see lots of people thinking about the different scenes that they can have as a different background so that they remove their office or bedroom or whatever it might be. So we're going to think about how we can create some of those as bespoke, but actually build in some learning opportunities from that. So I'm going to build mine within Keynote. I've just started a new Keynote deck here. I'm going to copy or paste in the example from before, mostly because it's got Welsh words on there that would take me a while to just type out. But I'm just going to go through the whole process of how to create this. The idea being that when I'm presenting, I would be in the middle of this and this would be behind me. Now, what I'm trying to kind of bring out here is the fact that all of this becomes a teaching aid for your virtual classroom, and it's really, really important. It could be just this. It's how to bring in some Welsh language terms that you might want to bring into your session. It could be more detailed. It could be questions. It could be all sorts of things. But it's there all the time for the students to see it, similarly to how you would use your actual classroom in terms of pointing them to support things, references. It's always visible. It's always there for the students to be able to use. So the process is really easy. All I've done here, if I just take out that picture in the background, is just created some text boxes, put my text in, and supported it really with the visuals as well. Again, just if we can support students in a range of ways, why not? So I've got the Welsh word, the English word, and then obviously a visual that represents that. Simply done. If you've not used Keynote before, just by tapping on the plus here, I can add in any shapes, etc. I need to. All of the shapes are also text boxes as well. So just to highlight, I could start a new text box as I have done simply here, and add that in. That's a text box I can type within that. But equally, if I jump on any of the shapes, if I want to make it look neat and tidy, if I was doing something around clothing and words for clothing, if this was that Welsh lesson, I could write directly onto the t-shirt as well. And then you're kind of adding that visual representation to the things that you're doing whilst you're building this resource that sits alongside you. The next thing then is, let's make this look a little bit more attractive. We've got students that are going to be watching you on the screen, and that's an important part as well in terms of you being visual on the screen. So when you're building this, think about where you would be within the frame. And then what we're going to do is think about, let's either design a background or let's find a background that we can use. So I'm just going to jump into split screen here, just so I can easily work across the two screens. And I'm going to search on a website called Unsplash. This is great because, like you see here, it's free images that you can use. So it's a great search library. And I'm just going to type in classroom. It's just going to hopefully find something which is going to be nice to sit behind me, to either make a virtual classroom or just something that kind of looks as a nice kind of backdrop. I think this one's probably quite a nice image to use. And I'm going to tap, hold, drag and drop, so I can quickly just bring that across. I'm just going to position that on my screen in a way that kind of makes it look like students are looking at me and I've got the board behind me, etc., and maybe my desk. I'm going to tap on the paintbrush and arrange this to sit behind all of those things. And then again, you might want to now start to think about the positioning of things. Do I want this to be on the board? Do I want to put the date up in the corner, whatever? So it really doesn't take long to create these. The process then is, how do I get this on the background of my call? So I'm going to tap on the three dots here. I'm going to export and choose images. So I don't have to take a screenshot or anything like that. Just export it as a high quality image. It means it's going to look really, really nice when it's in that backdrop. And I'm just, in this instance, just because I don't need the first slide, so I'm just going to make sure I'm exporting just slide 2, because the first one is currently just blank at the moment. Tap export, and then I'm going to save that image to my device. So that's our simple setup of how to create this. And again, you can think about the design here. You can be as crazy as you like. The key thing is leave this middle space, because that's where you will be within that video. Okay, so that picture has now been saved. It's going to be in my camera roll here. Now, depending on your workflow here, depends on what you do with this. So I'm going to jump in, choose that image that I've created, tap on the share icon, and I'm going to just airdrop this to my computer because I tend to do my Teams calls on my computer, so I can just airdrop this across to that computer. It's going to save it there. Obviously, if you're working across to a PC, you could just email the image to yourself so that you just basically need to get it onto the other device. So that's now shared across, and I'm going to jump onto my computer to show that next step. Now in Teams, just going to start a meeting just to go through the process and just get this set up. So once I go into this, it's just about kind of finding that image and placing this as your backdrop. So I've got my camera on. You can see at the top here, I have all of my settings. I'm just going to choose this one here and go to apply the background filters. And then just move my screen across so you can see those filters. I'm going to go to add new. And that's going to find all those images. So here's the image that I've just shared across. You see that image. Tap on open, and then if I just move down to the bottom, you'll be able to see though I can preview this. So it's just going to load that in the background. Oops, turn the camera back on. There we go. So now I've got that as my backdrop. Now it's going to show me in reverse at the moment, but then we just simply flip this because the students would see the better view. Obviously, I'm just watching myself at the moment, so therefore it shows it in reverse, but obviously on your camera it would be the other way around. And that's it. That's as simple as it really needs to be. But you can see that I can now kind of point to the things that I'm referencing, and use this as a usable thing within the classroom. But not just having that get rid of my background, but actually thinking about how the background can be used in your session. So I'm just going to jump onto my iPad and I'm in that same call as Teams on my iPad just to have a look at some of the features that you might not know exist when I'm presenting from an iPad instead of presenting off of a PC, etc. Now we get all of those options, the chat, the participants list, etc., and obviously being able to turn your camera on. But there's one thing in here we can't change our backgrounds, but we can have the blurred background. So again, thinking about your own kind of work environment. We can also turn on closed captions, which is great because that's going to give that captioning on the screen as I'm explaining things. Now, a couple of other things to just kind of highlight when you're presenting, if you're using your iPad. If we tap by here, we can see that we have these additional things that we can share off our device. So I can share presentations, photos, etc., or share my entire screen. So obviously the students would lose me from the screen, but if I tap on Microsoft Teams here, it's going to present my whole screen. So I can use anything on my iPad and present everything, and they would see that on their end as well. Now, when you go into that, the one thing you lose is the ability to see the chat window. So quick tip, something that I always use here is open this chat window on a second device. So if I've got a phone or something, and just have that alongside me so I can answer those questions that might pop up, and really use that kind of dual platform kind of approach to things. So Teams on the iPad, really, really useful still. Yes, you lose some of the functionality of the backdrops, etc., but it does help you if you're trying to use all of the functions of the iPad in terms of being able to draw directly onto the screen and use all of those other functions. So hopefully that's been of use to you as you get started with personalizing your approach using Teams to present your online teaching and learning sessions.